like any of that bootlicking helped Ava Duvernay. Coming to paperback and e-readers this April, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers this April. Yesterday, Warner Brothers announced that it was canceling production of its new Gods movie, which was supposed to be directed by Ava DuVernay and was supposed to be based on Tom King's Mr. Miracle maxi series. Now, many comic fans out here are speculating that this new Gods movie was canceled because of the tremendous success of Zack Snyder's director cut of Justice League on HBO Max, and that these characters of Jack Kirby's Fourth World would possibly be used in a continuation of that adaptation of those characters. Now, when I take a critical examination of this decision to decide to cancel this new Gods movie, I can see a bigger picture than your Warner Brothers wanting to try to change the narrative for their characters. When I take a critical examination of your Warner Brothers decision to cancel this new Gods movie, it is basically Warner Brothers yanking the rug out from under your agent DuVernay. Now, many in the black community call your Ava DuVernay Agent DuVernay because she compromised her beliefs in order to further advance up in Hollywood and become a part of the media arm of white supremacy. Now, when your Ava DuVernay first started out, she was making films like I Will Follow, starring Sarah Lee Richardson Whitfield, which presented a positive and humanized image of black people. But as your Ava DuVernay got acclaim for films like I Will Follow, she then started to make compromises with your white supremacists in Hollywood to advance her career. And that's how many black people started to call her Agent DuVernay, because it looked like she was out here covertly looking to do the dirty work for white supremacy in Hollywood, all while undermining the black image in media. And one of the things that your Ava DuVernay is alleged to have done to undermine the black image in Hollywood is prevent other black superhero, black fantasy, and black science fiction films from being made. And she did this by going out here and directing the film A Wrinkle in Time, which was a flop at the box office. Now, this flop came right after Black Panther in 2018, and your Black Panther, directed by Ryan Coogler, was considered to be one of the biggest successes as related to black superhero films. And Black Panther was the #1 movie in February and was one of the highest grossing films of all time in February. And with that success, many black comic fans, black science fiction fans, black fantasy fans, and black superhero fans thought we would be seeing more black superhero movies, black fantasy movies, and black science fiction movies, further diversifying the movie genres for black people and further diversifying the images of black people in mainstream media. However, what your white supremacists did after seeing the success of Black Panther was use your Agent DuVernay and Oprah Winfrey to a point to try to undercut the success of Black Panther and create a false narrative stating that there was no demand for black superhero films, black fantasy films, or black science fiction films by releasing the movie directed by your Ava DuVernay, A Wrinkle in Time, in March, right after Black Panther. And when this movie got critically panned and bombed at the box office, all of those Hollywood executives then went out here and said that there was no market for black superhero films, black science fiction films, or black fantasy films, even though Black Panther went on to become the #1 movie in America and made over $1 billion, and in fact practically sold out of all of its merchandise within the entire year. What they wanted to do was use your agent Duvernay to undermine the success of the black superhero genre, the black fantasy genre, and the black science fiction genre, and they wanted to create a narrative that your black superhero movies, black fantasy movies, and black science fiction movies were not profitable at the box office, and your Black Panther was an anomaly. That is what they wanted to use your Ava DuVernay to do, and your white supremacists in Hollywood, they managed to push this narrative as related to the black image and prevent other black superhero movies, black science fiction movies, and black fantasy movies from getting greenlit. And as a reward for your agent DuVernay compromising the ability to get other black superhero, science fiction, and fantasy movies greenlit, she was rewarded with several projects. One of them was the critically acclaimed series from Netflix called When They See Us, and a documentary, but the greatest reward she received was getting to be the director of Warner Brothers' New Gods movie. Now, your Ava DuVernay, if you think about it on merit, really was not qualified to be the director of a epic franchise like Jack Kirby's Fourth World, which New Gods is based on, if you look at her box office failure, A Wrinkle in Time. And she really wasn't qualified to be a director of such an epic film when you look at many of the other types of films she has produced. Because your Ava DuVernay, while she is very good at making films about poor, miserable, downtrodden black people who are oppressed by the evil white man, she's not very good at making films in the fantasy genre, and that practically proves a point as related to their argument, but that also shows how she was Agent DuVernay and how this agent was all about undermining the black image in superhero, fantasy, and science fiction movies. So they've decided now that they've gotten tremendous success from Zack Snyder's Justice League to now yank the rug out from Agent DuVernay, and in some ways it is karma for your Ava DuVernay, because here is a woman who went out here and bootlicked and buck danced and bojangled for these white supremacists in Hollywood and looked to try to advance herself and her career at black people's expense. And when she went out here to do all of that buck dancing, bojangling, and bootlicking, it looked like she was going to reap all of these great rewards, like becoming the director of the New Gods movie. But what your Ava or Agent DuVernay didn't really understand was that once you deal with white supremacy, they always have a catch, and they're always going to pull a swerve on their black bootlicks. Yes, they will let the black bootlick go up the ladder to a certain point, but eventually they're going to have saws at the bottom of that ladder and eventually cut that ladder down on you. And that's what's happened here with your Ava DuVernay as related to the New Gods. Now that she's outlived her usefulness, white supremacy in Hollywood has yanked the rug out from under her, and even worse things might possibly be happening to your Ava DuVernay, because oftentimes white supremacy, once they finish with a bootlick, they usually try to break a bootlick, because once white supremacy has finished its use of a black bootlick, what it does is make sure no one else can use their bootlick to do dirty work for them or share information with other black people who are about black empowerment with them, so they won't be able to figure out their secrets. And that's what they're probably looking to do with your Ava or Agent Duvernay, who made the compromise to try to go up the white supremacist ladder, not understanding that you're on shaky ground whenever you deal with these white supremacists in Hollywood. Because once these white supremacists, again, get you to make a compromise, then you're eventually doing business on their terms. And when it comes down to the images of their characters, they really do not want black people out here to have control over the images of their characters, especially their white characters. They never really wanted to go out here and have Ava DuVernay direct a New Gods movie. Yes, they went out here and announced that because they were virtue signaling, and your Ava DuVernay was caught up in all of her emotions about it, because she really didn't understand with white supremacy that they play chess and not checkers, and what they were doing was just using her to virtue signal to many of their people in on the left, how they're all about diversity, when in actuality they're not about anything as related to diversity at all. And after they got their virtue signal points by announcing, oh, this black woman would be directing the New Gods, and then soon found out, oh, Zack Snyder's Justice League director's cut has made all of this money. Now they are looking to find higher value in their property, and now that they found higher value in their properties, they're looking to protect their intellectual properties by assigning it to someone who they believe has higher value with the white comic fans, and looks to possibly get them more money internationally at the box office. So that's another reason why they went out here and yanked the rug out from Ava DuVernay and your James Wan as related to his spin-off Aquaman movie, because these directors don't fit their narratives anymore, and they want to protect and preserve their intellectual properties by making sure that a white director is in front of their projects and in front of their image, because they don't really want to see a black person having that kind of power, unless they go out here and, again, like Ava DuVernay, make a compromise, but they only allow them to have certain projects, and again, they only allow them to have projects that fit their agenda. That is the main reason why Ava DuVernay got the movie A Wrinkle in Time, is because they had an agenda as related to pushing and undermining the black image. Now that's the main reason why they released A Wrinkle in Time a month after Black Panther, because they wanted to find a way to undercut the success of the black fantasy, superhero, and science fiction genres at the movies, and prevent other black superhero, science fiction, and fantasy movies from getting greenlit. So they didn't really want those type of images out there, because they know that images of black fantasy characters like Isis or John Haynes or Eastine, these type of images, when black children start to see them in media, it opens up their imagination, and instead of them seeing themselves as thugs, gangsters, or bad boys, or hood rats or baby mamas, we start to see black children starting to imagine themselves as scientists, engineers, CEOs, superheroes, and gods. And that's something the white supremacist does not want to see black people imagining themselves as, because they really want you to be up under the white people. They want you to see yourself as second best, and they don't want to produce that kind of media on their platforms, because producing that kind of media on their platforms is detrimental to white supremacy, because they want people looking up to white male and white female characters, and they don't want black people imagining themselves in a world where they don't seek out white validation. And that is the great irony of your agent, or Ava DuVernay, is she started out presenting images of black empowerment, but then eventually became a tool of white supremacy and compromised herself to move further up the ladder of white supremacy, and now has come crashing down because this decision to cancel this New Gods movie just showed your Ava, or Agent DuVernay, that black people are not considered gods in the realm of white supremacy. No, they are just pawns in white supremacy. And when we look at the whole cancellation of this New Gods movie, it also falls and proves a point that Ray Fisher was making about the racism at Warner Brothers. Now, your Ray Fisher, he talked extensively about how he was mistreated on the set of Joss Whedon's Justice League. And when we look at the film and see the balanced, humanized image of Victor Stone and his relationship with his father, which was played beautifully by Joe Morton, we see that there was a white supremacist narrative there to undermine that black image in Justice League, because we saw Victor Stone being the most powerful character in the movie. We saw him having a great relationship with his father, and all of that would have wound up on the cutting room floor if they didn't release this director's cut. And again, the great irony is that here we have the whole Justice League presenting this humanized image of black people, more people looking to demand more of Zack Snyder's Justice League. But the great irony is that this black bootlick, Ava DuVernay, winds up losing her project as a result of the popularity of this presentation of Justice League, where Ray Fisher was primarily presented as Cyborg, a balanced, humanized image of a black man and a relationship with his father. The black bootlick wound up losing their job, but it just again shows how your white supremacist Hollywood works. They will go out of their way to, again, break their bootlick or rake the yard out from under their bootlicks if those bootlicks don't fit their agenda. And that's why it doesn't pay to be a black bootlick like your Agent DuVernay. Now, if you want to pick up some of my action-packed African-American fantasy fiction featuring positive images of black men and black women, like the ISIS series, the East series, the John Haynes series, or books that feature diverse images of black people like Black Goths in the Spinsterella trilogy, or black sorority girls like the Thetas, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find many on Smashwords, Barnes & Noble, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos talking about African American fantasy, science fiction, or the goth subculture, or many other aspects of black life that aren't talked about, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.